live.
All right, what's in this podcast? It's another special episode, another sit-down episode with David Lamont, and I got a special guest. My mom is in the building today. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
Introduce yourself for the people.
All right. I am Tomeka. I just call myself Coach Tomeka. And do I just tell a little bit about myself?
Yeah, tell a little bit about yourself. What your niche is. This is what's the niche is about.
What's my niche? I have a lot of niches. So my main niche is mental health wellness. I'm just a firm believer in mental health being one of the priorities in everyone's life. I think now, especially with everything that's going on in the world and society nowadays, that now more than ever, we need to have ways to deal with the stuff that's becoming overwhelming and for all of us. So my whole niche is that I am helping people to be able to navigate the world and find balance. So I'm a life coach. I'm also a yoga instructor, but I integrate the life coaching with my yoga instruction. Also have a program called Voices Live. Voices Live is an opportunity for people to express themselves and talk about who they are and how they became who they are, but also integrating the music as a component to it. So talking about mental wellness and all that kind of stuff. So that is pretty much my niche.
Cool. So the mental health field. So tell us a little bit about like why mental health is important and why should we be thinking about mental health?
Okay. Well, mental health is to me, mental health is everything. It is your physical health, it is your mental awareness or your mental health, it is your emotional health, it is your emotional health. So it's a combination of a lot of different things, but to me it's about balancing. So mental health to me is being balanced in a world that is unbalanced. So to me, without mental wellness or mental health, I feel like you're just kind of going along in life almost like walking with no direction.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are walking around with no direction. That is definitely the case. I think people need to get a little bit more in tap with themselves, because I think a lot of people don't know the reasons why they do certain things, or they don't even know the reasons why other people do certain things, so they always blame people, you know what I mean? So yeah, I definitely understand the things that you're saying. Of course, you taught me. So yeah. Let me get a shout out to, of course, Caesar on the computer, you know what I'm saying, working everything, and my man Roman on the camera. You guys definitely always chime in, of course, you know what I'm saying, ask questions. So what would you say, as you've gone on your journey, how have you gotten to this point that you're at now? Like, what is like some of the steps in the journeys to get into where you're at in your field?
Oh my gosh. I'm going to say that is really a long question. It probably could be a whole show. It could be a whole show on that. I would say it's been a journey from just recognizing that I needed supports. So my background is psychology, it's mental health in general. So probably from the time I was a child, I spent a lot of my time just reading. My mom is your grandma. She was a psychology major, so she used to have a lot of books around the house. And I'm a reader, so I've always read. That was my escape throughout the years, was just getting inside of a good book. So I would just pull her books out, and then I just started exploring the world of psychology. And from that, I used to have a lot of questions. So I always saw myself as probably an oddball, because I would just always be questioning everything. I just never understood the why. Like, I would always be like, well, why do people act the way they do? Why do people this way? Why is the world like this? So psychology, to me, it helped me it helped to feed that knowledge that I wanted, you know, that the questions that I had. And then I realized that even psychology in itself, even though we kept saying that psychology was etched in stone and it's a science, I kept realizing that even that is not necessarily true.
Right.
So what ended up happening is my journey was just, it started questioning more. So from each question came another question, and from one question came another question, another question, another question, until I started adding the spiritual aspect to it. So once I started adding the spiritual aspect to it, then I realized that life is more than just what we think it is.
Okay.
So there's another layer to it, and understanding that other layer was the part that let me see that mental wellness is more than just is more than just surface level, if that makes sense. So it's like I said, the health is the wellness is the physical part. So when I started getting sick during the years, only because I wasn't balanced, because I was dealing with my own mental, health concerns and issues with life in general, just trying to balance stuff. And then when I realized that the key was to just understand yourself, it's almost like relearning yourself, because we're programmed. And I don't know if anybody else feels the same way. I really feel like we're programmed. From the time we're born, our parents, unfortunately, they instill in us what they think they think that we should know, and what what they believe is, important, and then they take societal stuff and then they add the societal stuff to it, and then we go to school, and then school programs us, and then our friends program us.
Life is definitely about programming. They try to, and now they do it through the phones. Like, look at Roman scrolling right now. Being programmed. I'm trying to tell you, man. It's like they made everything more accessible to be able to brainwash us in a way. I was just telling someone that, cause she was like, "Oh, you got an iPhone now. I can text you now, right?" And I was like, man, that's brainwashing to think that the iPhone is the only end all be all of communication. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's crazy how people the Android the same thing. It's the same thing, right? Like, it's crazy how
the thing is, there's no unbiased media anymore. So you have to make your own. You have to take this information and make your own decision from it.
Facts.
You do, but that's so hard. I mean, because you got all these avenues coming at you, and all these, this is the way things are supposed to be, and it's like almost like when you think outside of the box, then it's almost like people now say that you're wrong. And
it's not until it goes right for you, they're like, oh man, you were right the
entire time.
Right,
exactly. And that takes a certain type of person to be able to go outside of what the norm is, because then you're kind of in your own world by yourself for a second. And that's how I felt through life, as I just felt like I was thinking differently than other people, and I would question things, and then I would say, well, I don't agree with that, and then I stopped talking, because when you did speak out, then people either think you're crazy, or they'll try to stop you and say, don't say that, how dare you say that, so you just learn to just shut up. And then because people think you're weird because you don't do what everybody else wants you to do or expects you to do. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but
I'm doing me. I'm turning 30. Excuse my French, but I can give a fuck what y'all people think.
What?
That's how I feel. I'm going with my true thoughts. I'm going with the energy of what God gave me, or what the higher power gave me, and how He makes me feel is how I feel, and that's how I think it should be.
Right. And something interesting with you, because you all are, of course, younger than me, is that's the one thing, I think that's why I really enjoy I say 18-year-olds and up, and maybe to your 30 range of individuals, because you guys have that type of mindset. It's like, I'm doing me, right? We didn't, unfortunately. My generation kind of was stuck in that time frame where you had to, in order to make it, you had to fit into that box, because if you didn't, then you would be outcast, and the outcast meant you were not going to be successful, because that's just how we were taught to follow rules. We were rules, follow rules. You do not break rules, right? So a lot of the things that you see today is because of that, because we were like, well, if we don't follow rules, then we can't be successful. So I think even as a parent, my generation, I think we kind of wanted you guys to be a little bit more open, So I think we did do that, but then now we complain. We tend to complain because we're like, how dare they? Like we just told them that they're not supposed to do that, and they do that, right? But you guys are like, even in the work world, they're complaining about you guys because they say y'all don't follow rules. And the expectation when you go to school, you're supposed to follow rules.
Rules?
Rules. Rules.
I mean, look, rules rules is fine. But I feel like what your generation, the generation above y'all didn't realize is that why are we even here in the first place? You feel what I'm saying? Like, they basically taught us this whole entire constructive thing of way of thinking. They basically took our natural way of living away just to basically turn this whole thing into a bunch of money and greed.
Well, that's part of it, is you go to school, do your years of school, get your high school degree, and then you go get a job or you go to college.
The money back to
that's what everyone thought it was.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we've kind of proven now that you don't got to do that.
You don't got to do that.
And that's right. And that's what I enjoy about this generation, is that you guys are thinking in different ways. So we see a lot more entrepreneurs now earlier than we did before. We did the traditional path.
Yeah. It also goes into the programming thing. Like, everyone thought you were supposed to do it that way. And it's like they're putting you in that position so that they can control where you go from there, type thing. And it's like, nah.
Yeah.
We don't need anybody to
I think
figure out when we should get promoted and everything like that.
And the cool thing is, everyone now, like, the thing is with this society now is that everybody thinks a more beneficial way for everybody. You know what I mean? Back then, everybody used to think just for something that benefits themselves. Like, for example, when they started doing that thing where college athletes could get paid and get sponsorships.
Oh yeah.
Certain people were like, "Oh, why would they do that?" And, like, you know, they're just paying them to go to school, and it's like, well, I mean, what if they grew up in a poor household? And I mean, that scholarship pays for, like, their food and everything, but I mean, if they're able to get, like, famous off college sport, they should be able to get paid for it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think this generation is doing a pretty good job of that.
Right, exactly.
You're trying to make justice for everybody.
For everybody, yeah.
Right. I just saw some article. I love reading articles and things like that. So I saw an article, they were talking about internships. So historically, I remember when I was in graduate school and we had to do an internship in graduate school in order to finish out our degree for my teaching part. And I remember they was like, oh, you're not going to be able to work because basically you had to do that internship during the day. So we were sitting there like, well, how are we supposed to pay for our bills, right? How are we supposed to pay for our bills if we have to work? And so there were a couple of people who actually literally could not finish their degree because they couldn't do the internship part. I fortunately got lucky because where I was working at, they kind of maneuvered something so that I was able to do my internship before they made the changes. But I just look at how many people, how discouraging that was. And so then, but then at the same time, because in order to do that, you also had to get more student loans, because the only way you were able to pay for, you know, during that time when you had to do internship, you couldn't work, is you would have to have your financial aid to pay for it. So now we're all in debt, and now we got this big thing coming on, you know, with all of us having spent so much money on school, and now the student loans are kicking in, and everybody's like, they're struggling, and they're like, whoa, what just happened here? You know, so I don't know. I just feel like, you know, just looking at how at least how I felt when I was growing up, is I felt like I had to follow so many rules, and that if I didn't, you were basically like ostracized. I mean, that's probably the wrong word, but
yeah, with this society, I feel like there's been so much leeway that there's not as financial debt from university as there used to be back then. Like, I know people that they've gotten by on multiple different kinds of scholarships that they just applied for.
Right.
I know people that are graduated already that don't have any debt.
That's good.
And they finished their entire thing.
That's good.
Yeah.
And that's good that because they must be providing for them. They must be providing the avenue for them.
Yeah, and then like the student aid jobs. I mean, some of them pay pretty well.
Yeah, I did a couple of them. They pay. Yeah, they pay different. I mean, I mean, I don't know. It just depends.
Maybe it changed from when you.
It's possible. It's possible, but I have heard the same complaint. because I know a lot of students I teach, and then I know a lot of
I think
students
it all
that
just depends
drop
on
out.
what moves you make.
Yeah.
I think
Right,
it all
and the
just
field,
depends on the
and the
moves
field
you
that
make,
you-
the field you
right.
make. Because if the field is the right field, then certain fields make certain more amount of money. It just depends on what's in demand. You know what I mean? Like, of course,
That's
if you
true,
was
too.
in tech, for if you were in
Tech.
tech and maybe when
Nursing.
you was in school, maybe tech wasn't before that. For nobody was thinking about that, but now that's the if you had tech back then, now you're excelling. You know what I'm saying? So it's all about whatever you choose to go in. That's why I always say you go with the energy of the earth. That's what
Right,
it goes
where
by.
your
You
passion.
choose what your passion
Right.
is, and then you go with that, and then the money will follow. Everything else will follow.
I agree.
That's just the bottom
I
line
agree.
to it to me.
I agree.
Yeah.
Speaking of tech, I mean, that's good that you brought up technology, because you're right. I think that's the difference too, is that because I look now and I think when I was in college, technology was there, computers, all that stuff was there, but it wasn't like it is here, where it's so accessible. Like, we literally, most of us could not afford like laptops and computers, so we literally had to use the school computers, because at that time computers were expensive, so it hadn't hit where it is now. So even information, like, you guys have the World Wide Web, and it's like anything you possibly could want is there. So like, for me, I feel like there's really no excuse why anybody can't succeed and be successful now, because it's there. Like, you guys have everything there. Like, I can't, when somebody says I don't know something, I'm like, really? You could just, all you gotta do is tap in the information, and
It's
next
all
thing you know,
about want to.
everything comes out. How to do everything.
But it's all about want, because like it's just like, even in the music field, there's some artists out there that don't even want to sit down and listen to an interview that could be good for them for their artistry. You know what I'm saying? But they want to be an artist. You feel what I'm saying? So I think it's all about your want. It's all about what you want to actually study for.
Right.
That's another thing too. Never has there been like so much information for people that are
Yes.
successful that there is now. Back then,
Yes.
you had to figure everything
To
out.
figure
by
everything
yourself.
out. Right.
Like, yes, you studied what you wanted to, but then you don't have a source to really follow from. You don't
No.
have an example to.
That's why a lot of
Exactly.
people can't figure out exactly what they want to focus
'Cause-
on. Too.
Because it's overwhelming. It's so
Yeah.
much and that might be the problem. Maybe it's too much now, where it's like, where you're almost like, okay, well, which direction should I go?
Yeah.
But you can do all these things if you learn how to pull it all together into one.
Yeah. So like,
We do multiple things
Sometimes
here.
I'll listen to like, me myself. I'll listen to some podcasts where they interview, people that have managed for famous artists and see what I can get from there.
But you see, you listening to the interviews. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
A lot of people won't even sit down and listen to
So,
because they won't even
yeah.
sit and listen to the people to get the knowledge.
And the thing I do with that is I put in what I've learned in school and try to like see if I can understand where this person's coming from. And if I can understand it on that end, I just put both together.
And I started figuring out I had to listen to multiple of them, because I couldn't just listen to Jay-Z.
Yeah,
I had to
'cause
listen to Diddy too.
Everybody
Gotta listen to
has
all of them.
Everybody has their
a
own point of
different-
view.
They do.
Their own way of they did things.
Mhm.
But it all goes together into one thing, and that's a beautiful thing about it.
Right, it is.
And it all starts once again from the idea. That's why I got to the secret of my knowledge of studying this stuff. Is it got once you start getting to that point of, all right, all I gotta do is just put my idea into the world, and then it's just all gonna flow from there. This thing is all. I keep saying that this thing is all about want and action.
Okay, so then we can just tie in what I was talking about, the mental health, because you're right. You can have a want and you can have a desire, but if that mental health, and I guess if that mental health is not right and your mind is not right, then nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Because it takes more than just having an ideal. You gotta be able to
You
have.
gotta be a certain
Right,
type
because
of
if I can't
person.
get up, right, and I can't function, then how's anything gonna get done? If I'm angry all the time, how's anything gonna get done? If I'm, like feeling overwhelmed, how's anything gonna get done? Because I'm not in the right place. So it's almost like you have to be at the right place in order to be able to take in all this information and be able to get to the next level.
But still, you can learn that.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I
You
really
can learn
feel
that
like,
from YouTube. They got mad motivational stuff on YouTube. They got mad. So like, if that's something that you feel like you're lacking, then well, you know my point of view. You know how I've been raised. So you know, I'm still kind of straight. I think things kind of straight narrow.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, if you feel like, oh man, I can't get up, you could literally type on YouTube, how do I learn how to get up every day?
It's not that easy, but it's not that easy when you're in the middle of it.
Oh no, I know, I understand that.
Right.
You gotta learn through. You gotta go through ups and downs. You gotta
Right.
learn these different trials and tribulations, but that's also called the process.
Right. But that's why I believe in support, because I think that sometimes we think that we should be able to do it alone, but not everything is meant
Everybody
to be.
needs support. It
right.
comes from
Everybody
family
needs that.
background.
Right.
It comes from, do you have, you know, I've always had a support system. So like, I'm coming from a place of always having a support system.
Mhm.
However, some people don't. I don't know. It just depends on how that person comes out. Some people, I'm a person. I don't think I utilize my support system, but I feel like I don't. I use my support system in my head as like man, you're weak for using your support system. So I've always been the type of person, you know, and I've since 18, I'm like, yo, I'm about to just do shit on my own. Like, I don't really want to be supported like that. But that's also just, you know, the figures that I have around me. You get what I'm saying? So like, I think it's all about how you're raised, what you've your environment plays a key part to everything. Because you can have a spoiled child with that spoiled mentality.
Mhm.
You get what I'm saying? Or you could have a person who literally been so spoiled it's a phobia for them to even use it. You get what I'm saying? Like, it actually doesn't feel right. You get what I'm saying? Or for instance, like, you've known, like, I've accumulated a lot of money in my life and I've lost it just from giving it away, feeling guilty of having things because I'm like, yo, I've had everything too good. You know what I'm saying? Like, why there's something's got to give at some point. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, mental health is
It's big.
it's a big.
I feel like you can go deeper with that when a business or artist, like for example, if you have like major anxiety
Mhm.
and the fear of the unknown,
Mhm.
you could really just get stopped from doing what you
can.
know you can do.
Right.
And then I'm also talking from a place of like, you have to worry about that anxiety shit, but look what I be doing most of the time.
Right.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So like, you can't even like, I could say get over that shit, but look at
Right.
And then that's exactly true, and I think that's where I'm coming from, because I've been through it, like, meaning that I don't use any substances. I really don't, and I know that to a lot of people it's probably like, how does she do that? But I had to go through everything. Like, I felt emotions, I felt the insecurities, I felt everything, and trust me, I had the anxiety attacks, I had all that stuff, but I just went through it. I said, I'm just going to go through it. And sometimes I understand why people end up doing all the stuff that they do in order to deal with the anxiety, because it's easier to do that than to have to experience it. Like, I teach and I have anxiety, right? So it's like rehashing it, bringing it up every single day that you teach. You're feeling the same feelings, the nervousness, but now I'm learning strategies. I've learned strategies that help me so that it's not as overwhelming as it might have been years ago. So I do believe in like techniques, but I believe in techniques long term, because the longer you do those techniques, it becomes almost second nature, where it doesn't feel as intense as it did before. But yeah, I think it's rough out here now. I think it's probably. And some people will say, oh, it's probably about the same. Yeah, we had the same problems years ago. But I think for you guys, I think it's even harder.
We got social anxiety at the palm of our hands.
Right. I mean,
like literally.
Right.
Like, y'all have to look at, like, it's like literally judgment to the 24/7. Like, social media to me and all that kind of stuff. I just can't imagine, like, if I look back and I look at how I was 20, 30 years ago, and I sit and I think, I don't know, living in the society the way it is now, what you guys are growing up in, I don't know if I could have done it. It would have took a lot of supports, because y'all got a lot more to me to deal with earlier. like the pressure is on from the time you were like 5, 6. Like y'all, like I'm noticing
Y'all's
kids,
age have it worse because
Well,
I didn't have as much internet. I think y'all
That's
grew
true.
up with
That's true.
internet.
I grew up with
I for me it was like the dial up was crazy. So
That's true. That's right.
I was not bro. Bro, you thought, and then back in the day, that was when nobody had the internet. Just at you had the internet like literally in the room, in the living room, in front of everybody, bro. Like you know what I'm saying?
Man,
like
you at least had internet. I didn't get it till I was like 13 or 14 in my house.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay.
14.
Yeah.
Yeah, these younger ones getting it younger and younger. And
Nah,
younger.
because they're already on the. You gotta think they're already
Right.
on the iPad already.
Right. Yeah.
They're already on the iPad.
You want to join our
already.
conversation?
But before we get out of this jump, I definitely want to talk about what you do for me and the Gmon and the artists and things of that, and then we can of course the people will see you
Okay.
all.
Okay. Yeah. So Gmon, like this whole aspect of it came, like I would say surprise, like a surprise, because this wasn't the direction that I saw myself going in, but now I see an avenue because like the world of musicians and people in the entertainment industry to me are like amazing people. Because the creativity, all that kind of stuff, I think is amazing. And so what I do for Gmon Productions right now is I am that person. I call myself like artist development, but artist development in the sense of mindset and just getting individuals to the point where they're ready to take on this industry, because this industry to me is tough. It's tough. There's a lot that goes with it. You have to have a strong inner part to get through it, right? Because there's a lot of stuff coming at you from every end. So I call myself the Mama Gmon is the name that somebody just turned me. I was like, really? I'm Mama Gmon? Okay. So my goal is to just interview artists when they come in, musicians when they come in, find out what direction you want to go in, and then help put all the layers together so that you can get to that where you're trying to get to be that whatever direction you're trying to go in musician wise.
And my accountant.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah, I help you with.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
help with
Look,
the money part.
You gotta know yourself, yo.
Uh-huh.
Because if you spend too much money, you gotta control yourself. Then you can't put your money in the wrong hands, because then people will just treat your money bad. So then you gotta put it in the one people that you trust. So know yourself. I feel like knowing yourself is the key to everything.
This is true.
But yes, I appreciate you like always. Yeah, and if you want some, get some more information from my mom, definitely reach out to her. Hit her up on Golden Mind Life Solutions on Instagram. Definitely reach out, Coach Tomeka on Instagram. Definitely, and I think we're gonna have some shows coming up with you coming on, so you're gonna be able to give like some advice on things like that, and interview some people, some other coaches and things. So definitely gonna have some stuff coming up with that. So if y'all enjoy, especially shout out to Inspire. We're always powered by Inspire. What's Next sit down episodes, of course, every Sunday. You can catch us here. Shout out to Roman, Zach is always. Sunday is when they come out.
Oh, okay.
We record on Saturday. They come, it's all good. Man, it's all good. This is raw. We get this shit raw and everything. You see. But anyway, shout out to y'all, the viewers. If y'all have any questions and want me to answer anything, or want any of the guests to answer anything, chime into our live on Instagram. And y'all people on the live, y'all got any questions? Definitely chime in. Peace. I didn't even check the questions on live.